Red Hollow is never truly dark because there's always something lurking, waiting to flare up and burn everything down. The wind howls through the mountain pass, snaking between the old wooden houses, carrying with it the acrid scent of coal smoke and the sharp tang of rust, like it came straight from the throat of a dying old beast. Marla rivers charge down the narrow street, rubber boots splashing through puddles. From afar, the fire alarm bells clanged in rapid succession, blending with the wind into a sound both urging and threatening. In the sky, a column of blazing red fire rose, casting the warped rooftops into contorted silhouettes as if they were cringing in fear. The miners' barracks were chaos. Tin roofs popped and cracked under the heat. Shards of burning wood whirled through the air like desperate moths hurling themselves into the flames. Marla plunged into the dense smoke, where the heat felt like invisible hands trying to squeeze the life out of her throat. A staggering figure emerged from within, coughing violently, before collapsing right in front of her. Marla dropped to her knees, hauling him up, his shoulders searing through the charred fabric of his shirt. As she dragged him out of the fire's grasp, she caught his voice, hoarse, broken. Mine, number 7. Don't let them. His head slumped to the side, unconscious. Marla looked up. Through the haze, she saw a black pickup truck parked across the street. Its headlights were off, but she could feel the weight of eyes locked on her. The wind shifted, scattering the smoke, and in that brief moment, the truck's silhouette vanished, as if it had never been there at all. She turned back to the unconscious man. His hand still twitched, nails digging into his palm as if clutching something. Marla gently pried it open. Inside was a charred scrap of paper, with only 3 words left. Mine, number 7. In her mind, one thought rang out, cold and absolute. If tonight is the beginning, then it won't end without blood being spilled. Red Hollow was a mining town cradled between 2 ridges of red rock, where every morning the fog rolled down like a heavy blanket, covering each wooden rooftop. From afar, the town looked peaceful, but anyone who lived here knew that peace was just a coat of paint over a surface full of cracks. Marla lived alone in a wooden house at the end of a dirt road, near the edge of the forest. The roof was old tin, and in the rainy season, it sang with a long, steady clatter, like someone lightly tapping on each of her memories. 2 years ago, Evan, her husband, died in the collapse of mine number 4. They called it a workplace accident. But to Marla, it had never been an accident. By day, she worked part-time as a firefighter, partly for a living, partly to feel she could still save someone from the kind of loss she had endured. By night, the town seemed to shrink. Street lamps dimmed to a sickly yellow. Shadows flooded the alleys, and strange noises slid past her window like whispers no one wanted to hear. After the fire last night, Marla couldn't sleep. The image of the man collapsing and the charred scrap of paper with the words, "Mine number 7, replayed every time she closed her eyes. She remembered clearly the black pickup parked across the street, headlights off, engine idling like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. This morning, stepping onto her porch, Marla saw fresh tire tracks pressed deep into the damp earth outside her gate. They led straight to the road toward the sealed-off mine. A small piece of paper had been caught in the fence by the wind. It all starts there. She clenched the paper in her fist, eyes fixed on the distant red mountains. If Evan had known something about mine number 7, that secret was still buried somewhere underground. And someone was determined to keep it there. at any cost. The wind shifted, carrying with it a faint smell of engine oil. Marla realized she was no longer standing alone on the porch. At the end of the street, the black pickup was there again, silent as before, except this time it didn't vanish when she looked straight at it. That afternoon, black clouds slid down from the mountain peaks, pressing on Red Hollow like an invisible hand tightening around the town's throat. The air was thick with the metallic tang of rust and the acrid scent of burnt coal, making each breath feel like swallowing deadly dust. Marla was checking equipment in the garage when a knock came at the door. 3 short, sharp raps, then silence. She opened it. No one. Only a brown envelope lying still on the doormat, like a beached, lifeless fish. Inside were yellowed photographs, their edges frayed as if they'd been hidden away for years. Evan, her husband, stared back at her, not as a ghost, but as the Evan from just days before he died. He stood in front of the entrance to mine number 7, a faded wooden sign above his head. Across the margin, in crude black marker, someone had scrawled, "He knew," and they knew he knew. Marla's heart pounded, and memories from 2 years ago surged back like a flood. That night, Evan had come home late, clothes covered in stone dust, his eyes shadowed, as if darkness from the mine had clung to them. He'd said only one thing. "If I don't come back tomorrow, look in the wooden cabinet in the workshop." The next day, he was reassigned to mine number 4 for a surprise shift, and hours later, the mine collapsed. Marla tore into the workshop, yanking open the wooden cabinet. Beneath a layer of rusted tools sat a small locked box. The lock was corroded, but when she pried it open, the inside was empty. Someone had gotten there first. A faint sound came from the window. Marla spun around in time to catch a glimpse of a man in a black coat disappearing beyond the fence. She ran outside, but the alley was empty. Only the lingering scent of cigarette smoke carried on the wind. On the damp ground, tire tracks were pressed deep, leading toward the sealed-off mine. Marla stood still, gripping Evan's photograph so tightly, the edges cracked and splintered in her hand. In her head, one thought rang out, cold as steel. If they took what was inside, then I'll take it back, even if I have to dig deeper than death itself. Night fell over Red Hollow faster than usual, as if the sky itself wanted to swallow the town before anyone could notice. Inside the wooden house, Marla sat motionless in her chair, Evan's photograph and the opened envelope still lying on the table. The warm yellow light fell across her face, highlighting her red-rimmed eyes, though not a single tear fell. Outside, the rain began, each heavy drop striking the tin roof with a hollow clang, like a slow, deliberate rhythm tapping on every wound in her heart. In the rain's cadence, she heard Evan's voice again. "If I don't come back tomorrow, look in the wooden cabinet in the workshop." Now that sentence felt like a steel hook, lodged deep in her memory, dragging her back to that fateful day. For 2 years, Marla had tried to bury that memory beneath the ashes of routine and busyness. But tonight, someone had dug it up. And when they took what was inside the wooden box, they didn't just take the secret. They took away the reason for her silence. She stood and stepped onto the porch. The darkness was thick, fog creeping out from the forest, curling around her legs as if trying to hold her back. Far off, a lone street lamp flickered weakly, its sickly yellow light sputtering like it was about to die. Marla clenched the photograph, feeling the brittle paper crack under her grip. its edges breaking into tiny fragments that fell onto the steps. A faint sound came from the end of the street. The black pickup sat there, headlights off, its silhouette carved deep into the mist. She couldn't see anyone in the cab, but she knew she was being watched. A chill ran down her spine, like the press of a blade at the base of her neck. Marla stepped back inside, bolting the door. The engine rumbled, slow, deliberate, not driving away, only shifting just enough to let her know it was still there. She whispered, steady and certain, "You took everything. Now it's my turn." Outside, the rain began to swallow all other sounds, except somewhere in the darkness, a single short honk, dry and sharp as a warning. Marla sat at the kitchen table, the warm yellow light spilling over a stack of old photographs, fragments of memory layered like the strata of rock deep inside a mine. Her fingertips brushed against a picture of Evan, the rough pads of her fingers meeting the worn, grainy surface. And suddenly, the past slid into focus, vivid as if it had never left. Evan had come home one autumn night, his clothes covered in stone dust, his eyes sunken as if they'd seen something they should never have seen. He skipped dinner, poured a glass of water and sat down, his hands clenched so tightly the knuckles turned white. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "I saw what they buried under mine number 7. It's not just dangerous. It could kill this whole town." She asked, "What is it?" But Evan only shook his head. "I'll show you, but not tonight. If I don't come back tomorrow, look in the wooden cabinet in the workshop." The next day, he was reassigned to mine number 4 for a surprise shift. A few hours later, the mine collapsed. Marla jerked back into the present, her palm clenched so hard her nails dug into her skin. She stood, walked straight to the workshop, and tore the place apart. But the wooden box was empty. Someone hadn't just beaten her there. They'd known exactly what to take. On the other side of town, Dean Coulter sat in a dingy motel room, the cold green light of a desk lamp spilling over the file in front of him. Numbers and names were printed in neat rows. Payments from Barton Minerals funneled directly into the account of Cole Briggs, the town's sheriff. Dean flipped to the next page, a list of workers who had disappeared over the past 5 years, most of them tied to mine number 7. He pulled out his phone, snapping quick photos of each page, his other hand resting near the pistol on the table. The light bulb overhead went out with a sharp pop. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, slow, deliberate, like someone counting each step toward his door. Dean shoved the phone and a USB drive into his jacket pocket, his eyes flicking toward the window, calculating a way out. A knock came. Not loud, but drawn out, steady, like the ticking of a clock running out. In the workshop, Marla stared at the empty space where the wooden box had been. A small space, but colder than the night air seeping in through the doorframe. She knew in that moment she'd stepped into the game Barton had set in motion. And in this game, those who leave the table early usually don't leave alive. The knock came in the middle of the night. 3 short raps, then silence. Marla stepped quietly to the door, peering through the gap in the curtain. No one stood on the porch. Only a folded sheet of paper lay on the doormat, its edges wet from the rain and smeared with mud. She bent down and unfolded it. Tomorrow night, old wooden bridge. Alone. Marla's gaze swept the length of the street. At the far end, the black pickup still sat motionless, its shadow blending into the fog like a predator waiting to strike. She knew this meeting could be a trap, but ignoring it meant losing the only chance to recover what Evan had hidden. On the other side of town, Dean Coulter wedged a chair under the doorknob, flipping quickly through the files with his free hand. Payments from Barton Minerals funneled straight into Cole Briggs's account. A list of workers who had disappeared after working in mine number 7. Dean pulled out his phone, snapping each page, every click of the camera, like a heavy heartbeat. The light went out, footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, like someone counting each step toward him. Dean spoke quietly into the phone. "They're coming. If I disappear, you need to find the tunnel map." It's a loud bang on the door cut him off. The line went dead, leaving only the cold hiss of static. Marla opened her closet and pulled out an old backpack. One by one, she placed inside a flashlight, a folding knife, a coil of rope, a water bottle, a first aid kit, Evan's handgun. Each item hit the bottom with the weight of a stone, sealing off any way back. She stood before the mirror, staring into her own eyes. For 2 years she had lived in fear and loss. Tonight, fear had been pushed aside by something else. A rage burning hot, yet cold as steel. Marla zipped the backpack and stepped onto the porch. The night wind slid through her jacket, carrying a faint scent of engine oil. The pickup's headlights flared, a cold beam slicing across her face. She didn't blink, only tilted her head slightly and whispered into the darkness. "If this is a trap, let's see who falls first." The headlights cut out. The black swallowed the road whole. The night wind whipped against Marla's face as if trying to tear the skin away, carrying with it the smell of mud and riverweed from the river below the bridge. The old wooden bridge stood isolated on the edge of town, a rotting carcass drifting at the outskirts of Red Hollow's memory, where even the streetlights pulled back and let the darkness rule. The decayed planks groaned beneath her feet, each creak echoing like the snap of bones in the empty air. Marla stopped in the middle of the bridge. No one. Only the steady lap of water against the bank, and somewhere, the chilling call of an owl, like a warning before the inevitable. She tightened her grip on the gun hidden in her coat pocket. The note could be a trap, but if she walked away, the trail to Evan's wooden box would vanish like smoke. A flashlight suddenly flared behind her, the beam cutting into her back. A rough, low, hurried voice called out, "Ms. Rivers, I don't have much time." She turned. A tall, thin man in a hooded coat, his face hidden behind a dust mask. In his hands, a small cloth bag, trembling slightly, as if he were holding a beating heart. He stepped forward, placed the bag on the bridge's surface, but didn't let go. Inside is what Evan hid. "But Barton knows I have it. They're coming." His eyes darted over Marla's shoulder, tight as a wire about to snap. An engine roared at the far end of the bridge. Headlights burst on, white beams slashing toward them like blades. Marla drew her gun, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. The black pickup tore forward, its tires grinding against the planks with a splintering bone-deep crunch. The man shouted, "Run!" and shoved the bag toward Marla. She grabbed it, spun, and sprinted toward the far bank, every footstep feeling like she was running across thin ice, about to give way. Behind her, metal clanged and voices shouted, swallowed almost instantly by the roar of the engine. When she looked back, the headlights were gone, and so was the man, as if the darkness had swallowed him whole. Marla clutched the bag, feeling its unnatural weight and the cold shiver running down her spine. In her mind, one thought was crystal clear, as if whispered directly into her ear. If this really is what Evan hid, Barton won't let me live long enough to keep it. Marla ran for home, clutching the cloth bag tight against her chest. The rain began to fall, each drop heavy as stone, slamming into her face and breaking into icy trails down her neck. In her head, the pounding of her heart merged with the phantom sound of an engine still chasing her from behind. She slammed the door shut and flicked on the light. The bag was soaked through, the coarse fabric frayed at the corner, revealing the edge of a yellowed sheet of paper. Marla drew a deep breath and pulled the zipper open. Inside was a stack of documents stained with dried blood, and in the middle, a map of Mine Number 7's tunnels. Red lines twisting like veins deep into the earth. She had just spread the map out on the table when the phone rang. Dean's number. His voice came in ragged breaths, layered over chaos in the background. Barton, found me. They're right. Gunshots cut him off, the line going dead. Marla's grip tightened on the phone, her eyes locking onto a single point on the map. A side tunnel leading from Mine Number 7 to an unmarked chamber. In jagged pencil strokes beside it, storage room. She shoved the map into her jacket and headed out immediately. Outside, the rain poured down in sheets, stinging her skin like lashes. The shadow of the black pickup swept across the far end of the street, headlights slicing the darkness before disappearing toward the mine. Marla followed down slick, red dirt roads. The mine's gate was shut tight, but noises leaked from within. Metal clanging, men shouting, machinery roaring like a beast in heat. She slipped through the iron fence, following the flicker of a hanging work light. The tunnel was damp and narrow, the smell of wet earth mingling with the acrid bite of chemicals. Ahead, a burst of bright light revealed a massive chamber. In the center stood Cole Briggs, the sheriff, next to a towering drill rig. Dean was tied up on the ground, face bloodied. Briggs held a handgun, his voice low and steady. Ms. Rivers, I knew it was only a matter of time before you found this place. Marla raised her gun, but from the side tunnels, 3 men in black coats poured in, weapons aimed straight at her. Briggs's voice boomed across the chamber. Drop it, or I'll show you exactly how Evans died. Her eyes flicked to Dean, then to the edge of the map still sticking out of her jacket, and she realized they had all seen it. Her steps slowed, but in her mind one thought rang out, cold as steel. If this is the end, I'm taking them down with me.